Hey there, BoneStockRacers. Today, we're going to have a little discussion about the front forks on the KTMs, the modern ones. We've got the AER and the Xplor. There are some subtle or maybe significant differences in them. Do they really make much difference to you as a rider? No. Do they make any difference to you as a bone stock racer? Absolutely not. Don't believe the interwebs. They're great. Hopefully I can give you a little confidence in them and give you maybe a way of how to think about them and go forward as you're riding. You really do not need to spend any money on them to go have a good time riding with your buddies and racing. Alright, let's get into it. So that would be Xplor suspension, and this would be the AER, which is the air forks. And you can see right in here, maybe you can't see, that's where the air is put in. Squirrel? Alright guys, look at this. 18 kilometers is all we did. 18 kilometers. It took us 4 hours. And look at where my gas is. Yeah, it was tough. So, what did you think of that ride there, Hillbilly?
We didn't cover a lot of ground, but burned a lot of gas, that's for sure.
Okay, what was your max heart rate?
I think it was 197, and my average it was 137 or something like that. Yeah,
perfect.
137.
Okay, this is a goon bike. It's a 350F, totally goon. Here's another goon bike. It's a Husky 125 with a 200 cylinder in it. Look at that. Wait till you see its owner. Hey.
Yeah.
What do you think of that ride?
BoneStockRacer, yes. BoneStockRacer.
Hey, what do you think?
Awesome ride, Howard. I think Monty killed you every time, though.
That guy right there.
I think the tree got me. What? Where are you looking?
Let's see it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that pretty face, boys and girls. So, in the future we're going to talk about bikes like this, like 350Fs. Especially when they've got auto clutches in them. Like the man's an anus. For most of us, we have a difficult time assessing what we actually need in suspension. And what all manufacturers do is try and find a setup for any given, let's say, genre of racing or riding that will work for you. So if you get yourself on a dual sport bike and expect to do a triple on it, it's not going to work for you. But there are some guys that can, notably a guy in Florida on an XR 600. So it's not particularly limiting, but they set it up so that in any given situation, the average person will find the most comfort. And here's where we start, or not comfort, but usability, let's say. And here's where the real confusion starts. And if I could suggest to you that when you get a bike, whether it has the AER on it like this XC or the Xplor like this XCW, first of all, think to yourself that the guys in KTM have actually scientifically developed it for a wide range of terrain and circumstances, and all they have for you to do is to make sure that you've got the right spring rate for yourself, and then off you go. Okay, the big difference between these two forks are the AER has a spring that is provided by air, and the Xplor has a spring that's provided by a steel spring. Now there is some dampening differences where the XC is sort of damped. I don't know how to put it. It's a little more aggressive. Let's say it's for a little more aggressive riding, or you could say short-term riding, where the XCW is a little more plush, and the XCW forks, the Xplor forks in this have a little less like rebound dampening and stuff, and it tends to go through the stroke a little more when you hit something, which is all fine. It's just the way it is. It's the only downside on this. Well, I shouldn't say downside. The XCW has suspension that would blow away anything from a decade ago. You can ride it in 6 comfortably. You can ride it over a variety of terrain comfortably without it getting confused. But it is plush. It is excellent for long, long days where you're not being super aggressive. So like if you had a 4-hour cross country, by the 3rd hour you'd be glad to have those forks. Both and the XC forks, the AER forks, they are for 2020 they're excellent in the mid-stroke, like absolutely fantastic. Anybody that complains about them has their head up their ass. The downside of that is it's a little more aggressive. It stays up in the stroke, and you know, on a 4-hour cross country, by the 4th hour you're going to start feeling it in the hands, which is another let's say downside to the AER. It has a bit, it transmits a bit of that initial movement in the stroke to your hands repeatedly, and there are a couple things you can do for that. First of all, just ride it over something aggressively. No, that's not what I want to say. There are a few things. The AER transmits the little shocks to your hands. You feel it in your hands, and it's funny because that air fork as a whole doesn't give you much feedback. The where I particularly notice it, like it actually doesn't bother me at all. If you reduce the the oil level in the fork just a tiny bit, it almost goes away until the end of your ride, and you start feeling it. Where I start noticing it when I get tired is on like long rocky downhills, when you start to put your palms into the bars, holding yourself back. That's when you start feeling that little jitter, boop 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 boop. And if that happens to you before you send your suspension off to get revalved or whatever the hell you do with it, as you're going down that hill and you're feeling that, tell yourself, okay, get your feet a little bit farther back on the pegs, clamp in, hold yourself with your core, let go of your hands, just tinkle your fingers on the brakes or whatever you need to do, and ease off the pressure on your hands, and that feeling goes away. Okay? It's not the fork, it's how you're riding. I shouldn't say it's not the fork. The fork does transmit that, but it's not an issue in how the fork is performing. And if as soon as you go into a proper stance and ride properly, it pretty much goes away. If you think that you need a little bit of work, okay, what I want you to be very cognizant of is that unless you can tell the tuner exactly what you need that fork to do not waste your money. If you're thinking to yourself, these forks are just bad, I'm way better than these forks, They're just not working for me. Fix them. No, the problem is you, because they're excellent. From extremely good riders down to really shitty riders, they are excellent. The problem is you, okay? If you cannot describe exactly what you need these forks to do in whatever situation, you are just wasting your money when you send it off to a suspension tuner. Okay, keep in mind that these bikes are set up to do, let's say, a 4-hour race. Okay, you get yourself up on a Sunday morning, you head off down a couple hours down the road and you go to a race. You have no idea what the terrain is. You need suspension that can work over a wide variety of terrain. You may give up something here, give up something there. Okay, you go to a race and what you're gonna hit is a couple of logs, some braking bumps in the downhill maybe on the second hour, right? If you're doing a hare scramble, and you're going to get into ruts and this and that. And what's most important is the suspension works corner after corner after corner, and that is your setup, right? You want to have control on that. And both the AER and the Xplor work awesome at that. They can repeat it over and over and over again. They do it a little bit differently, but they can do it. So keep your $600, put it into gas. Here's a rule of thumb for you. Never spend more on your suspension than you're spending in gas on the year. If you're spending $600 or $800 on gas a year on your bike, have at her. Put a little bit of money into your forks, because odds are you'll have a little bit of a better indication of what you're doing, but do not do it based on the interwebs. Squirrel? I'm not going to direct you
You can't
there.
just say, what are the Supercross?
Yeah, well, listen, give us an update on the Supercross.
What though? Like what? Like what? Daytona's in 5 days.
And what is it about Daytona that's so cool?
I don't know, Dad. What about Daytona that's so cool?
Well, the track is always designed by Ricky Carmichael. Mm-hmm. It's always the biggest track of the year. Mm-hmm. So it takes more fitness and endurance. And who's going to kick butt? Who's going to win this weekend?
Cooper Webb.
Chet?
No.
You're coming across as a failure fan in the fan club. Tell us about Jet Lawrence merch.
Oh, well, I really want to get it because I love Jet Lawrence. Not because we have the same last name, but because I think he's a good rider. But his merch hasn't come out yet, so I can't even buy it yet.